to talk to you about. Are we on?
You're on. Okay. You're live.
Sorry. It's, you know, live. Or,
we on air?
We're on the air. You can find in. Number one is I have an exam review quiz that that you can take, and that'll be another quiz grade that you can take and then maybe drop. Cool. So, or not drop, take and keep, since we're here doing exam review things. This one actually has 20 questions, so it'll be really hard to get a bad grade if you remember anything. You can take it as a quiz and put your name on it and leave it with me, or you can just take it and use it to study. That is my cell phone noise. Let me just make
I got it, but if you want
okay,
to
I know where the phone is. Here, window.
Hey,
that's Tracy, I think. Yeah.
What if we want to do both? Leave it with you and
take it. Well, you know what? I'm gonna post every quiz you guys had this semester in a file on Blackboard. So when you go home today, I'll get on the computer and just put all the quizzes in one file and then just call it the quiz file, so you'll have all of the questions. Again, even if I gave them all back, but you might have lost them or fed them to your dog or whatever it is that happens to those things during the course of the semester. I have the exam written. It's 50 questions on the objective side that are going to be your truth, falsehood, your multiple guess, your fill in the blank. Very much like the quizzes. Can I stress to you that they are very much like the quiz questions. So some of them are exact, although I will tell you, please read them because, I'm a little sneaky, and so sometimes I'll throw in not, when on the quiz it was, which one is appropriate or which one would violate, and then I'll say, on the exam it'll say which one would not. If you read all of the quiz questions and know how to answer them, you will know how to answer every single objective question on the exam. There are also 2 essay questions on the exam. As to length, I'm trying to think here. There's no set length at all. I've divided them in my head so that theoretically, this is a 3-hour exam. I say theoretically, no one's ever taken 3 hours. It's a 3-hour exam, half the time for the 50 objective, half the time for the essays. So you could plan a half an hour per essay easily. And I will tell you, if you're not used to taking essay exams, please read the whole question and think about it before you start writing anything, because you'll get facts and then there'll be a question at the end of the factual scenario, and it'll say that the call of the question is what you're going to write about. It should not be unclear at all. I will just say, given the above, is the person, do they have a case for libel or not? Something like that. And you would write it and basically make the case, kind of like your libel quiz if it were, a libel essay. And I don't remember which of the several essays I put in there at the moment. I'll go pick up the exam before you're done so I can look at that, because I've got it sitting upstairs. But, so that's the structure of the exam. We're scheduled for Saturday at 11 a.m. If you have a problem with that, you should have gotten in touch with me. I got 4 emails of people who had a problem, and talked to one person today who's going to be taking it late. But if you're trying to take it early, you're kind of running out of time. Well, let's see. I've got some people taking it Wednesday and somebody taking it tomorrow. I doubt any of you wish to join the Tuesday crew. And then somebody taking it next Tuesday. So if you have scheduling issues, travel, games, too many other exams, just, contact me and we'll be able to straighten these things out. Now, before we get started on these things, did any of you guys think of any questions you wanted to ask me? You're all being very quiet. I'm the only one on camera. Yes, sir.
Can you talk about obscenity, indecency, and pornography, and how to differentiate those three?
Yes, that was actually on your obscenity quiz. You guys remember that? Well, one of the big things that distinguishes them, I guess we'll start with obscenity. And I think the one thing that distinguishes it from everything else is that obscenity has no First Amendment protection. This is what's very important. None. It's the only one that has no First Amendment protection, which means it can be regulated up the wazoo. It can be forbidden altogether. It can be restricted to particular times, and really, there's just nothing anybody can do if it qualifies as obscenity. Now, defining obscenity, The textbook hit on a couple of, I don't know how useful they are, but at least they're distinguishable. The one thing about obscenity is that it has no redeeming social value, according to the book. Of course, it is something designed to excite sexual lust or appeal to the prurient interest. You would have seen that phrase, appeal to the prurient interest.
Sorry,
Yes,
can you just
ma'am.
repeat that last one real fast?
Sure. Obscenity is designed to excite sexual lust to appeal to the prurient interest. Hey, come on in, guys. Come on in. You can walk around this way or go that way. If you're in this way, you're on camera because we just kind of started the business end. Oh, look, they ran the other direction. You can't hide, Michelle. There's food and there's hot food in there and sandwiches. Hey, Jamie. Can you hear me? Oh, he's back on the phone. Not still. It's all right. You don't have to take your shoes off. It's all right. You're on the phone. I was just going to have you bring out the other sandwich because more people came and might want to eat food. All right, so where were we? So we've got no redeeming social value, exciting social lust, appealing to prurient interest, right? And no First Amendment protection. Those things distinguish obscenity. Now, when it comes to pornography, this tends to deal with, of course, sexually explicit expression not rising to the level of obscenity. That's how it is often defined. It has to do with sex, but doesn't get as bad as obscenity. Yes, people think pornography has redeeming social value. I mean, some people. It certainly has monetary value for whoever's selling it out there, but it's even according to the textbook, it is also it's sexually explicit, graphic expression, but not rising to the level of obscenity. Sorry, not rising to the level. So pornography is less than obscenity. It's less serious, less disgusting.
So the definition of obscenity is it's designed to excite sexual lust.
Right.
Pornography doesn't do that. Is that what they're saying?
Well, no, it could do that, but it's not as bad. It's not as explicit, not as graphic. So that's how they're distinguishing it. It's in the same. It's like a difference of degree rather than of kind.
Good.
So you've got your scale of red. And your obscenity would be your deep crimson, and then your pornography would be something less, somewhere in the pinks. You know, that's kind of how they're distinguishing it. Same kind, difference of degree, not in kind. Another question.
And then the First Amendment, how does that apply to
Pornography has First Amendment protection. So you will find that in order to limit it, there's going to have to be a balancing of First Amendment concerns versus the other concerns. Now, let me just tell you this for your own edification. Other than basically reciting the definition, if you see a question like this on the exam, it's going to have to be something like an essay question. But even then, I couldn't even do it, because what am I going to do, give you a picture? They would so kick me out of BYU. So you're going to be left with talking about it in the abstract. I can't possibly give you a picture and say, is this obscenity or pornography? No, it's not going to happen. So focus on these little technical distinctions in the verbal definitions, because that's what you're going to have to deal with. Right? So pornography, like obscenity, just not as bad, has First Amendment protection.
Somebody
Now,
still needs a sandwich?
There were some new people who came in, and so I thought maybe we could put another half of sandwich out there if they needed it. Michelle, you just came in, right? Do you want sandwich, or are you good with everything else?
I'm good.
Okay.
Because you guys. So the third one was indecency, and we're getting to that right now. Indecency. They describe it as concerning, they did say, reproductive or excretory functions, when you're, and of course your 7 deadly words, you know, these are things that are not nearly as explicit. They don't qualify as pornography, does not qualify as obscenity. The other thing the book emphasized with respect to indecency is that it dealt with broadcast media, and the emphasis was on protecting children. So on your exam, when I gave you the little section there where you had to put an I or an O or a P as to whether or not it dealt with obscenity, indecency, or pornography, that's pretty much the most that you're going to get, because I can't give you a picture, right? And I wouldn't, because when the Supreme Court was asked to define obscenity, the answer was, well, I can't describe it, but I know it when I saw it. You know, I know it when I see it. Well, you know what? You're not going to see it if that's what we're going to. I wouldn't be allowed to show that to you, but even if I were, I wouldn't want to. So instead, focus on what's going on. With indecency, it's broadcast media, emphasis on protecting children, dealing with your body parts, excretory functions. That's the kind of stuff. Your potty humor, you're going to end up getting fined by the FCC. Indecency is also where you're going to have someone come up with their 7, bad words, all of those things that you can't say on television. That's all going to come up under indecency.
What's First Amendment protection?
It does have First Amendment protection, which is why typically what happens with indecent material is they shove it to nighttime, and they'll basically let you do certain things after certain hours or on certain types of television stations, mostly cable. So you want to distinguish the 3 of them. Obscenity has no First Amendment protection, the other 2 do. Pornography is dealing with sexually explicit stuff, doesn't rise to the level of obscenity. Indecency covers your bad language, your potty humor, your body part humor. Excretory functions, the book used that. Do I have to explain that in any more detail? You all get that? Yes, sir.
But the other 2 are still concerned with protecting children, just not as much as...
Not necessarily, because they're not on broadcast media, for the most part. And the part of the problem with indecency is if you have indecency on the radio, anybody can hear it. You've got a radio. You've got a TV, you've got a TV sitting in there. My kids are on that way more than I am. And the idea is that you just don't want anybody getting surprised with something that they weren't planning, and having to explain things to their kids that they weren't planning to explain for another few years.
So how does that change online with like YouTube or music videos and stuff that's in the front page?
Well, right
Was
now...
that just with the parents, they're supposed to be being the vigilantes?
Well, you know what? It's kind of funny, because in my head, there's just no big difference between how ubiquitous internet material is and television. But what the courts have done to distinguish them is relied on this little fine line that you don't get the internet for free. Children actually do not have the capacity to contract, so no child could actually get the internet in their house. An adult has to do it. Just like with cable, if you get HBO and flip on HBO some night when you're bored, you might see things your mama never told you about. And why can they do that? Because you have to pay to get HBO. It's not something that an innocent child can get by accident unless their parents are careless. Right? We don't have HBO, do we, honey? Do we have any premium